can one of the world's most powerful countries truly keep its children safe at school? It's a heavy question, right? And honestly, it's one that weighs heavily on communities all across the United States. Whenever tragedy strikes, our immediate reaction is naturally driven by deep emotion. But to truly understand why school shootings happen, we've got to take a step back. So in this explainer, we're going to look beyond those immediate emotional reactions. We're going to dive right into the raw official data, rigorous research, and expert analysis to figure out what's really going on.
We really have to ground our investigation in reality here. Think about it. Millions of students grab their backpacks and head to class every single day, fully expecting a safe environment to learn and grow. Yet, the harsh reality of gang violence, illegal drugs, and armed threats continues to raise severe alarms about their safety. It's a stark contrast, and frankly, it demands our attention.
Welcome to this explainer on a deeply critical issue. Gun violence in America. Why do school shootings happen? It's a heavy responsibility to guide you through this, but we're going to break down this highly complex, often confusing topic using structured, objective facts straight from the sources that study this day in and day out. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's the investigative arc we'll follow today. First, we'll look at the scope of the problem. Second, why do these shootings actually happen? Third, the role of drugs. Fourth, we'll review proposed government solutions. And finally, we'll look at why this remains such a complex challenge.
All right, let's start with part one, the scope of the problem, understanding the national crisis. Gun violence is universally recognized by experts as a major public health and safety challenge in the United States. According to data from the CDC, there are literally tens of thousands of firearm-related deaths annually in the U.S. This staggering number includes homicides, suicides, and accidental shootings. It's really vital to note here that while school shootings understandably receive extensive media attention and strike fear into the hearts of parents everywhere, they actually represent just one specific part of a much broader nationwide gun violence crisis.
Which brings us to part two. Why do shootings happen? Analyzing the root causes. When tragedy strikes, we all naturally want a simple explanation, right? But research from the FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice confirms there's really no single cause behind these horrific events. Now, what's really interesting here is the data from a comprehensive survey by Alfred University. They actually asked students themselves why they believe these shootings occur. Just look at those top two reasons. 87% of students point to revenge, and 86% point to bullying. It overwhelmingly identifies deeply personal grievances and a sense of being targeted by peers as the primary triggers, far outweighing other factors. But of course, bullying doesn't operate in a vacuum. Experts highlight that it's the compounding of several factors that drastically increases the risk. We're talking about underlying personal or mental health struggles, a history of trauma, or witnessing physical abuse at home. Researchers also point to structural issues like social isolation. This happens a lot when a student moves from a smaller, supportive environment to a larger school with a higher student-to-teacher ratio, basically a place where they might just fall through the cracks. Add in economic stressors within the community, and ultimately a lack of timely intervention, and well, you have a recipe for disaster.
And this next point brilliantly illustrates how these plans are actually carried out. 80%. That's right, according to the National Institute of Justice, 80% of individuals who carry out a K-12 mass shooting stole the firearm used in the shooting from a family member. 80%! This stark statistic shines a massive spotlight on the issue of access and the absolutely crucial importance of secure firearm storage in homes with children.
So let's move on to part three, the role of drugs, separating myth from reality.
Now, there's a very common assumption out there that illegal drugs are the primary driver of school violence. But let's go back to that survey data for a second. When you contrast the 86% of students who point to bullying against the 52% who point to drinking alcohol or using drugs, a really clear picture emerges. While some broader violent crimes are absolutely connected to illegal drug trafficking and gang activity, official research proves that drugs are not the primary driver of school shootings. Social, psychological, and personal factors are significantly more prominent in driving these specific tragedies.
This brings us to part four, proposed government solutions and how policymakers are responding.
We're going to impartially examine how the U.S. government and academic experts propose to fix this crisis. If you follow the political landscape, you'll see a stark divide in strategies here. On one side, the Democratic approach largely focuses on changing laws to restrict access to the firearms themselves. On the other side, the Republican approach generally focuses on fortifying the physical environment, hardening school security, locking down entrances, and in many states, advocating for arming teachers and educators so they can respond to threats immediately. These are two very different structural philosophies on how to best protect students.
But beyond the political aisle, what do the actual researchers say? Well, the consensus from agencies like the National Institute of Justice focuses heavily on prevention. They recommend expanding mental health services and counseling directly within schools. They emphasize improving the early identification of at-risk individuals. They desperately call for more secure firearm storage practices at home. They also advocate for increasing targeted action against organized gang crime and illegal drug trafficking, alongside continued investment in reliable data collection. And crucially, they stress the importance of public reporting. Actually, research shows that 2/3 of foiled mass shooting plots are detected because someone in the public saw a threat and reported it.
And we have to remember what's really at stake here. Behind all these statistics, the political debates, and the policy proposals is a very real, physical threat to community safety. This image of shattered glass, it's a stark reminder that this isn't just some abstract debate. It's an immediate crisis requiring sustained, effective action to protect lives.
This leads us to our final section, Part 5, a complex challenge, moving forward together.
If there's one thing the data makes perfectly clear, it's that there is no magic wand here. Gun violence in America's schools is a multifaceted public safety, education, and mental health challenge. Fixing this epidemic isn't just a job for the police, or just a job for the teachers, or just a job for parents. It requires coordinated, simultaneous efforts across multiple sectors. Schools, families, law enforcement, and entire communities must absolutely work together to address the root causes of isolation, trauma, and access to weapons.
We've looked at the data, the psychological factors, and the proposed solutions. Now, I want to turn it over to you. Based on what we've explored today, what do you think? Should America focus its energy more on changing gun laws, improving mental health support, or strengthening social and community programs? Share your perspective in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation respectful and data-driven.